Hi. Hello. We are live. Let's see. All right. Okay, today we're going to be talking about how to heal from guilt. It is Saturday. It is noon. And if anybody joins me live, welcome, welcome. If you're seeing this on the replay, welcome. If you have any questions or comments, please comment down below. I love reading those. We're going to kind of start in about a minute. It's right at 12 now. And we will get started very soon. This is the How to Heal from Guilt workshop. I have my pup in the other room, so hopefully you can't hear them barking. I might have to go and put her in a different space. But let's see. All right, welcome. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Saturday. This is Memorial Day weekend. We have no plans. We don't have any plans on our side. It's mostly just a working weekend and hanging out with the kids and having fun and relaxing. I don't know if you have any plans, comment down below. If you do, if you're doing something fun, let us know what it is. Let's see. Okay, it is 12 noon. I'm going to wait till like 12:01 to kind of get started. And again, if you are joining me live, welcome. If you're just popping in, hello, my name is Sasha, and today I'm going to be doing a How to Heal from Guilt workshop. I will also be posting this in the button on the top of my banner on Instagram. We didn't make it on the last one. I forgot to push save, so this one I will remember to push save, and it should save it for it. And then it will run for about 24 hours. So with the save button, it should run for a lot longer. So welcome. Okay, it's 12:01. I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you're popping in, welcome. Say hello in the chat. If you're just watching, that's okay. And if you would like to watch the replay, or you are watching the replay, definitely comment down below. I love to read all of that. Okay, so my name is Sasha. I'm a holistic mindset coach, and today we are going to be talking about how to heal from guilt. This is my Saturday free workshop. I love doing this. This is so much fun for me, and guilt is a topic that I like to talk about because we all have these very strange, unique to ourselves sense of guilt. One person's guilt is not like anyone else's guilt. And that makes it really fun and also sort of challenging, because when someone feels a certain way, there aren't sort of the cookie cutter things that can really make them feel better unless they understand why they feel that way. So we're going to kind of dive in and get started. At the very end, I will be doing some journal prompts, and then I will also be posting the journal prompts on the feed. So go ahead and check those out as well. All right. So first and foremost, where does your guilt come from? Where does guilt come from? Guilt is not a innate human behavior. This is a learned trait. This is not, it's almost like a skill. You become good at feeling guilty, or you're bad at feeling guilty. It's not really good or bad in a sense of, you know, kind of you did it right way or you did it wrong way, but some people learn how to feel guilt intensely, or other people just don't have that same kind of intensity towards feeling guilt. And why is that? The reason is because it comes from your values. Your values are what help kind of mold and shape what you feel as guilt. Now, your values come from, obviously, you know, when you're very, very young, when you're very little, it comes from your inner circle, your parents, any of your caregivers, siblings, younger siblings, older siblings. As you get a little bit older, you know, your circle starts to expand to an outer circle. This can be extra caregivers. It can be your school. It can be a community that you belong to. It can be a religious, church-like setting that you belong to. It can be clubs that you go and are part of. So it could be after-school clubs. And then it kind of just keeps broadening from there. So it starts to become, let's see, your outer circle, let's see, your geographical location. So where you are born in the world is going to vary on how you feel guilty about things versus another place that you're born in the world. And then, of course, just your upbringing in general. What your parents thought may be sort of something that might make you feel bad, or kind of, told you something that wasn't okay. And then all of a sudden you ingrain that as, oh, I should feel bad for that. Okay, that's something I might feel guilty if I do it down the road. So your guilt stems from something, okay? So your guilt is not just, poof, it's not just there. It is literally something that you've learned along the way. So depending upon your age, you may have a lot of learned lessons on guilt, or you may have very few learned lessons on guilt, but it's based on your values. So first and foremost, if you are trying to get over feeling guilty about something, the first thing we're going to do is understand where your guilt came from. So those values, what is it that you were taught that was either good, bad, in your life that you would then feel guilty from? So to understand your values, we want to really understand and own those values right now as they are. Now we can change them down the road, but right now you really need to take a deep dive and understand, okay, well, where are my values coming from? Are they, club oriented? Are they group oriented? Are they social family oriented? Are they, religious oriented? Are they something that I've learned that other people don't like? And now if I do that, I feel guilty about it. Where are those values coming from? This confusion, basically, on something that you can feel guilty about this is what causes the confusion on when you can feel guilty. So if you understand where your values are placed, what values you have and what values you don't have, then you can understand where that guilt is stemming from. And for example, so if you grew up in a household where little white lies or fibbing was no big deal, it's totally okay for you to tell someone, something that is basically a small lie, but it makes them feel better, then you're not going to have any guilt for that. And then if you tell maybe a little bit bigger of a white lie or a little bit bigger of a story or a tall tale, you may have absolutely no guilt on that. But if you grew up in a household, conversely, where, it was very narrow, very this is right and this is wrong, you don't lie to anyone ever, then all of a sudden a little white lie can make you feel this insurmountable amount of guilt just because you did it, even if you were trying to make someone feel better. So understanding where those values are placed will go it'll go a long way in helping you understand where the guilt is coming from. So that's the first step. And I would encourage you to journal this, because a lot of times when we start to journal, there's something that happens between the brain. It actually starts to connect those wire and firing in different capacities. And when you start to journal, you're pulling from your different experiences. And it actually, what I encourage is a rapid journaling. So if you're trying to figure out where your values are coming from, you want to just kind of start to just stick it all on the page as much as you can, as fast as you can, because then your consciousness is not going to be sort of rewriting or censoring what you're saying or what you're writing. It's just going to kind of get it all out there. And then you can go back slowly and kind of read through and think, oh, I didn't really realize, but yes, I was taught this at a young age. Or, this person that I was with always said this to me, and it always made me kind of feel guilty about now what I'm doing here or that. So definitely journal that, dive deep into it, and figure out where your values are. Now, when you figure out where your values are, and you're figuring out what you can do to get rid of this guilt, right? Let's say you've been holding on to it for a short amount of time or holding on to it for maybe a long amount of time. Realistically, you can let that go. You can release it. Releasing guilt is not something that takes a long time to do. What does take a long time is for you to prepare emotionally to let it go. So ask yourself, is this guilt that I'm willing to let go of? Just let it go. Or am I holding on to it for some reason? Do I feel like holding on to this guilt will, let's say, keep that person in my life, or keep that person's memory alive? Or am I just berating myself for something that I did and I want to remember to never do that again? So I'm holding on to this guilt because of that. Ask yourself, is this something that I'm willing to let go of? Because if it's not, you need more time to get ready to let go of it. And that's okay. That's okay. But realize it's not the guilt that you're holding on to. It's the feeling of, should I let it go or should I not let it go? If you are in a place where you are ready to let go of it, here are some very fun and easy ways that you can kind of go ahead and do that symbolically, okay? So here we go. All right. One thing is this symbolic forgiveness ceremony. All right. As a species, as humans, we love ceremonies. Ceremonies mean a lot to us. From small ceremonies to large ceremonies, think of weddings and birthdays and bar mitzvahs and christenings and baptism. I mean, there's all the sorts of things, right, that you could go to that's a ceremony. Even funerals are a ceremony of someone's death. And some cultures do big celebrations, some do small celebrations, some do no celebrations, but it actually helps us get through things when we have a ceremony. So you're going to give your guilt a ceremony. You're going to give it a farewell send-off, okay? Now, the two that I really like the most, and I've found the most support with and the most personal experience actually of letting go of guilt, is a burning ceremony or a water ceremony. You can use these both, or you can use them individually. What I really find works well with a burning ceremony is something that I usually feel really bad about, and so I'll do a burning ceremony because it just symbolically means a little bit more to me personally. With a water ceremony, if it's something like maybe I said or something that someone said to me to let it go, I usually do like a water ceremony. So it really, really depends. You can use them interchangeably, but just figure out which one you like the most. And of course, I'm going to show you how to do, or I'm going to tell you how to do those right now. Okay, so with a burning ceremony, make sure you have something that you can use, whether it's a tiny little cauldron or just a nice little stainless steel pot or a terracotta pot. Make sure it's something that you can burn something in. Even a pan you can usually burn something in. You're going to write out in as much detail as you can that thing, that experience, or that situation that you want to release from your life. And then the ceremony itself is super simple. You literally you can fold it, you can crumple it, but you're just going to burn it. And you're going to burn it in a safe place. So make sure that there's nothing around that can catch on fire. You can do it indoors or outdoors. And as the burning ceremony happens, I want you to just try to clear your mind. Focus on the ambers, focus on the visual of the fire, and think, I release you. I release you. I'm no longer needing this. And the thing that's nice about this is because as you do this, you're literally giving this a ceremony, right? This is it's a tiny ceremony. It could be just with you. It doesn't have to have a big group of people. But the reason why you do this, and I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I get this right. So ceremonies, our brains are wired to accept when a ceremony takes place that it's a big deal. And so when something's a big deal, your brain starts to kind of shift and it starts to fire and wire, and it builds those synapse connections that, oh, this was a big deal and I gave it a big deal and now it's done. Just like a wedding, you wouldn't expect a wedding to go on and on and on, especially I'm here in the US, so our weddings usually last one day. Some cultures, they do last a little bit longer. But if you go to a wedding, you're not going to think, oh, I've got to go back in 2 days to finish up this wedding. You think, no, we had this big ceremony. It was amazing. It was great. But now it's done. And you kind of move on with your life. Our brains have been basically hardwired with our cultures to accept these ceremonies as they are and then to move past them. So you're going to do this with your guilt as well. Now, the second one you can do is a water ceremony. And I think this one is really beautiful. What you do is you basically you can cut out either a triangle or a square or kind of diamond shape. You basically write down what it is that you want to release, what you want to let go, and then you fold the corners in. Now, as you fold the corners in, they're going to kind of meet in the center. And then as you place this piece of paper in a bowl of water, what happens is the water will absorb into the paper. And then slowly what will happen is the paper corners will start to open up. And it almost opens up like a very slow flower, or if you've ever seen any kind of blooming tea, it just kind of opens up. And as it opens up, you're just going to symbolically say, I release you. I let this go. I let this guilt go. It's not needed. And you're just going to kind of imagine that energy going up into the universe or just dissipating or dissolving, whatever it is that you'd like to visualize. But what happens with these ceremonies is that your brain will literally release it and let it go. So those are two wonderful symbolic forgiveness exercises. The next one we're going to talk about is called mindfulness. All right, with mindfulness, this one's a little bit different. You're going to be practicing being in the moment. So you're going to think about the situation that makes you feel the guiltiest or feel the worst, or those feelings that make you feel guilty. And then you're just going to basically start to look at all of the details, not the details of the guilt, but the details of what you would normally not see. So this is almost kind of, you're going to disconnect slightly, and you're going to kind of sort of look at this almost from, the best way to describe it would be a bird's eye view. So you're going to basically, think about the situation, and they're going to take a step back and disassociate from the situation, and then kind of take that bird's eye view. Like, let's say you were a bird just hovering above looking at this circumstance that made you feel guilty. And let's say it was a conversation with someone, or an action that happened, or something that you did, or even something that you thought or you felt like doing. That can cause some guilt, even if you don't actually do it. So you're going to take a step back mentally, disassociate yourself from it, take a bird's eye view, and then as that bird just kind of hovering above, notice the details. Notice the details of the other person's shirt. Maybe just notice their hair color. Notice what, how their mannerisms are being represented. Notice the surroundings. What's going to happen is this will kind of basically, because you're disassociating from the actual event itself, your emotions will slowly start to lessen. They'll become less and less intense. And then as you notice a situation, kind of take, sort of a third party perspective. Okay, well, this is how I felt, and this is how this person is going ahead and talking about the situation. And then this is how the other person is. And start to really think, no particular person is right or wrong in this scenario, but this is what transpired. This is what happened. And then basically you can come back into your body and just kind of think, oh, okay, that's what the other person was thinking. And it can give you a completely mindful new perspective, okay, on the scenario. And then hopefully you either gain some information from this, you either think, oh gosh, maybe what I had said, it was obviously taken the wrong way, or I didn't really realize they were saying this, and now I understand what they were coming at, what they were saying, what they actually meant by this. And you no longer have those feelings placed on the emotions of what's going on, because you can go ahead and look at kind of a new perspective. You can either let go of the guilt or kind of maybe start a new dialogue with that person based on what had transpired. All right, the next one is imagery. And imagery is super, super fun. Okay, imagine you're back at the beginning of the conversation. How can you do it over and perhaps better, or at least differently? This one is usually what a lot of people do in their head. This is not my favorite one, just because I know for most of us, we'll relive that conversation again and again and again and again and again, and that doesn't necessarily help get rid of the feelings from it. So basically what we're going to go ahead and do with this one, with imagining or reimagining, is basically just do that. What would I have done differently? How could I have approached the situation differently? What is it that I could have said differently, or maybe not said at all and taken a day to think about it, or a day to kind of, check in with myself and see how I felt about this information or what happened. The next one is super, super important. And this one is called self-talk. Now, self-talk, I think, is the most beautiful way that you can get over guilt, because what happens, it's also called metacognition. So it's how you talk to yourself, how you think of yourself within yourself. And that's going to be next week's topic, metacognition or self-talk. So here's what you're going to do. If you're feeling guilty about a situation, you're going to say to yourself, you can say it out loud. I think it's more powerful if you say it out loud. I also think it's more powerful if you say it out loud to yourself in the mirror. So you're looking at yourself in your own eyes and you're saying this out loud, kind of like someone else was telling you this right to yourself, but it's very, very powerful because you need to hear it. What we're going to go ahead and do is say, at this time, no matter what, I deeply and truly love and accept myself. So no matter what, at this time, I deeply and truly love and accept myself. And what that does is it gives you permission to feel the feelings and know that no matter what, let's say you have you were enraged, let's say you were super angry and you did or said something, it gives you permission to have the feelings of anger and rage without succumbing to the berating yourself for those feelings. Now, you're still responsible, obviously, for your own actions, but by doing this, you can start to you can put yourself down a different path. You can say, I truly, deeply love and appreciate myself, and because I accept and love and appreciate myself, I can go ahead and let go of this guilt and know that this particular moment doesn't define me, and I can always do better. Okay? What happens when we hold on to that guilt is we actually think that defines us, and we've got to hold on to it so tightly. We've got to hold on to it and not let it go. And unfortunately, that means that we aren't really accepting those feelings. We aren't really accepting ourselves. And if we can't accept ourselves, if we try to push those feelings down, then we're not able to really truly kind of, see what's going on. We're stuck in that moment where all we can feel is the guilt, and we're not able to really appreciate the whole situation and learn from it. And I see some notes here. I'm just going to pop in here. Let's see. No? Okay. Good. If you're just joining us now, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. And if you're joining us on the replay, definitely comment down below. I love reading all the comments, and I would encourage you to stick around to the end. We'll be doing journals in just a moment. And so, yes, so pretty much the last thing I'm going to talk about today, we're doing really, really well on time, is acceptance. It's okay to be wrong. Sometimes we fight so badly to be right in a situation, and when we really truly know, oh, you're right, I probably shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have, gone down that path, but we're fighting to be right because we don't want to be wrong. And when you're fighting to be right, again, you miss sort of all of the nuances around you. You miss all of the extra information that you could be receiving in. And what happens with that is that you're making it not okay to be wrong. And the thing is if you're wrong and you accept that you were wrong, you've just learned something. It's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes will happen. Mistakes are going to happen throughout your entire life, irregardless of your age, irregardless of your experience. But those mistakes, if you're learning from them, then you can do better and better and better. If you're not learning from them and you're not making it okay to be wrong, then you're going to continue following down that same pattern. That pattern could be something that is your own behavior, or that pattern can be accepting behavior from other people that just isn't right. And by knowing that your behavior is wrong or their behavior is wrong, you're harnessing that guilt and you're holding on to it. And that hurts you more than it hurts the other person. So definitely make sure that you are accepting that, okay, what was said, what I did was wrong, and I'm going to take responsibility for that, and I'm going to do better next time, or I'm going to accept that the behavior I'm receiving is wrong, and I'm no longer going to put myself in a position where I can receive that behavior. I'm going to take myself out of that position or out of that scenario. So these are the best ways that I have found that you can go ahead and heal from guilt on your own without any kind of outside influence. Now, if you do need additional help, or if you are really in a state where you need chronic support or support for something in particular, definitely reach out. But we're going to head into the journal questions today. And we only have 3 today. Last week I did 5, but I thought these would be the most important ones to kind of touch on. And again, if you are journaling these, I would love for you to take a picture and, tag me in it or send it to me. I would love to see your journal responses and see how this is working out for you. So definitely. So number 1, what are my core values in this situation? How may they differ from the other person involved? So what are my core values in this situation, and how may they differ from the other person involved? So this does 2 things. First and foremost, it helps you identify your values. Remember, because your values are not like anyone else's values. So if you can figure out what your values are, you can kind of have in check, okay, well, why am I reacting to this situation? It's based on my values. Okay, well, are those values good or bad still for me, right? Like, am I liking those values, or do I need to reshape those? We'll talk about that in a second. The other thing it does is when you look from the other person's perspective, so how is the other person involved? What are their values in this situation? It actually helps reshape the entire scenario. So perhaps you have a very core belief, a core value of something very specific, and a situation transpired and you're feeling really guilty based on what happened. But if that other person does not share those values, it doesn't really matter whether an apology was made or received. You can still feel bad about that situation. And that's because you need to understand that their values are just different. And so once you understand those values, you can kind of start to determine, okay, well, where is it coming from? And once you have, understanding is power. Once you understand where they're coming from, then you can start to identify, is this good, or I'm going to keep this, or am I going to let this go? Number 2, is there anything I feel that I am doing wrong based on my values? So this is a big one. So is there anything that you feel you are doing wrong based on your values? So if you have a very deep-seated value about, the roles of men and women in a household, and you feel, let's say, gosh, I shouldn't be working this much, or I should be home with my kids more, you might feel a ton of mommy guilt if you're going back to work, or if you enjoy going back to work, right? But realistically, is that just a value? Is that a value that was placed on you that you learned when you were young, that moms are supposed to be home with their kids? Is that a value that serves you now? Is that a value that you even truly believe in? Is it just learned, or do you really believe that that's an important value? Oftentimes your values can conflict with what your mental thoughts now are, what you really feel is a priority. If a priority is going back to work and you really want that to happen, well, that's where your guilt is coming from. Your priorities and your values may not be lined up. However, the next question is, do these values still serve me? What's wonderful about this is you can change your values. You can alter them at any time. You can decide these values don't serve me. They didn't make sense when I learned them. Now, especially at my age, or I'm an adult, or I'm going through my formative years, I'm turning into a teenager, I'm turning into a young adult, I'm getting older in my years. These no longer serve me. I'm going to change them. And then literally write out, what are your core values? What's most important to you now? And the third big question, how can I allow these feelings to teach me? Because your feelings are there for a reason. Your feelings are not just there to haunt you and annoy you and stress you out. Your feelings are there on purpose. So how can they teach you? Maybe they're just teaching you that you need to realign what your values are today. Maybe you need to figure out what your values are now. Maybe they're teaching you that, what you're doing is heading you down a path that might not serve you best. Maybe they're teaching you that you need to reevaluate who you have in your life and make sure that they are a shining star in your life that helps support you, instead of maybe sort of like dampering your light and not letting you be who you are. But what are they trying to teach you? Because they're there for a reason and they're on your side. They are your allies. So let them give you the lesson that you need to hear, and then let them go. Do a ceremony and let them go. And then what is the lesson is the biggest one. So what is the lesson in this particular circumstance? I know that sometimes I'll have some guilt associated, some mommy guilt or whatnot. And I try to think, okay, what is the lesson? What is the ultimate point? My feelings are trying to tell me something. What are they trying to get at? What do I need to learn right now? And oftentimes, some of the biggest guilt comes from something even super simple, like time management skills. I've overextended myself. Now I'm trying to do too many things at once, and I'm not giving the proper attention to the things that are most important to me, what do align with my values now. And as a result, I'm, stretched too thin. And so I need to go back and assess my feelings and think, okay, this situation that I'm feeling guilty about is actually telling me that I need to prioritize better, let go of some things that, this timeline wise, and some activities or, some tasks that really aren't that important to me, and then go ahead and spend the time that I actually want on those things that do align with my values. So, all right, if you have any questions, I'm going to post these again down below. We're almost at 12:30, so I'm trying to go through to make sure we're on time this time. Again, if you're joining us, thank you so much for being here. If you're joining the live, thank you. If you are here on the replay, definitely comment down below. You can tag yourself so that you can see this again, or you can also tag a friend and who you think might benefit from this. And I hope to see you live again next week, and we will kind of wrap it up. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and comment now. I will try to stay on if you can. And then I will be posting the journal prompts in the feed as well. So have a wonderful weekend. I hope that you have an exciting plan for this weekend, and I will see you next Saturday live. Thank you. Bye-bye.